Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are we all doing wherever we are based in the world? How are you guys this week? That's really good. I am doing very well as well. If you have just happened to stumble across one of my videos by chance, then hi. My name is Mia. Over here on my channel, we discuss all things true crime. I cover true crime cases from all over the world. So if that's something that you are interested in, then you should go ahead and click that subscribe button. It's free. It's a free way to help me out. Give this video a like. Shows me that my audience is enjoying what I'm putting out there, and maybe I'll put some more stuff out there. I'm really edging to get to 500 subscribers. I think we're like about 50 away. So please interact with my videos, comment, subscribe, like, get my videos out there. I really want more of the true crime community over on my channel because I would so love that. Oh, outfit of the day check. Outfit of the day check. Plus my slippers. Feel free to always send me a DM or leave a comment down below if you ever want to know where any of my jewelry's from, or any of my clothes that I'm ever wearing, any of the makeup that I might ever use if I do a makeup look. Today I am going to do my makeup while we do the case. I like it. I like being busy. I just want to say, as I always do as well, I am in no way professional. I don't work in any areas of crime investigation or law. I just simply like to review and talk about different crime cases from all over the world, and all this information is from online sources that are available to everybody, to you guys, to me, to the general public. No disrespect is ever intended towards anyone I may mention in this video or any of my other videos. So with that all being said, let's just dive on right into the case. So today we're going to be diving into the case of the murders, unfortunately, of Abigail Williams and Libby German. This case is also known to the public as the Delphi Murders or the Snapchat Murders. So to begin our case, we start off in the small town of Delphi, Indiana, USA. We're just always in really small towns, aren't we? It's a running theme. Nothing much really, happened in Delphi. It was a small town, as I said. It was pretty quaint. I think there was only about 3,000 people living in Delphi at the time that this happened. So everybody kind of knew everyone knew everybody's business. It's just the way it goes in small towns. In this small town lived two teenage girls. Their names were Abigail Williams and Libby German, or better known to friends and family as Abby and Libby. Abby was 13 years old and Libby was 14 years old, and they were just the absolute best of friends. They attended school together, they were in the 8th grade, and just from everything that I've researched, they seemed like genuinely the most sweetest, most innocent, most kind girls. Libby was described as being so smiley at school and with her family. She was a really good swimmer, played an abundance of different sports, played the saxophone, and when she was older, she was interested in becoming a science teacher or working on crimes or cures. So she definitely had that academic side to her, but at the same time, she clearly wanted to help people when she grew up as a career. Abby was also described as such a sweet and kind girl. She also played lots of different sports at school, just like Libby, and also played the saxophone. So both of the girls had a lot in common, hence why they were such good friends. Family also meant a lot to both these girls. They had, a huge amount of respect for their family. They were very kind to their family. They were just really good girls in general. So it was February 12th, 2017. It was a Sunday night, and Abby was spending the night over at Libby's house having a sleepover because for some reason they didn't have school on the following Monday. It was just a day off for the students at school. When the girls woke up the following day together, they were sort of discussing their plans on what they wanted to do today because they had a day off. They wanted to go out and spend it together and do something fun. They just didn't want to sit around on their day off. So they were sort of like, all right, well, what can we do today? So eventually the girls made a plan that they were going to go and walk around the Monon High Bridge. I'm so sorry if my Aussie accent just butchered that. Monon High Bridge was a popular Delphi historic trail where you could go and walk and hike through it. So the girls were like, yep, we're gonna go to Monon Bridge for a walk, but how are we gonna get there? Because they were 13 and 14 years old. Obviously they can't drive yet. So they asked Libby's older sister, Kelsey, if she would be willing to take them. Kelsey said, yep, sure, I can absolutely take you there. However, I can't come and pick you up because I've already made prior plans with my partner today. Kelsey said that she would drop the girls off on 2 conditions. 1, they had to get Libby's grandmother's approval to go, and 2, they needed to find someone to give them a lift back home because, as I said, she was not going to be available. So Libby got the tick of approval from her grandmother that her and Abby could go to Monon Bridge that day, and she also scheduled with her grandfather to come pick herself and Abby up from the trail once they had finished. So at around 1 p.m. that afternoon, Kelsey dropped Libby and Abby off at Monon Bridge Park Trail at the beginning of the trail in the car park. The girls jumped out, said goodbye, and everything was just so normal. So once Kelsey started to drive away in her car, the 2 girls sort of set off on their hike or their walk down towards Monon Bridge. And Monon Bridge was an old abandoned railway bridge, so very old, very rickety looking, surrounded by woodland. It looks very cool. I can see the appeal. I can see why people would be wanting to explore around it. It does look pretty sick. When I first saw pictures of Monon Bridge, I got very strong Stand By Me vibes. Does anyone else know that film or anyone else love that film? It's my #1 favorite film in the entire world. Currently it's, or probably still is, prohibited to actually cross the bridge or walk on the bridge and things like that because it's an old abandoned railway bridge. I mean, it's not maintained or anything like that, and it's quite high and there's no side railings for people to hold on to, so there is that risk of people falling. So I guess that's why they prohibited people from walking on it. But I mean, people are people, of course they're going to walk on it. People still crossed it anyway. I mean, it was sort of an attraction in the area, and it was not uncommon to see people venturing across it and taking pictures and stuff like that. So the girls get to the bridge and they want to cross it to get to the other side. I mean, of course they do. I would too if I was there. I think Libby had crossed the bridge before on like a... just shoved that chubby stick up my nose. But I believe it was Abby's first time going over the bridge all the way, I think. Can't be 100% certain, but I believe so. So while they were crossing the bridge, Libby actually took out her phone to take a really nice picture of Abby just candidly kind of walking across the bridge. It looked really pretty, and she actually uploaded it to her Snapchat story just after 2 p.m. Sadly, and I guess little did they know, that this would be the last photo ever taken of Abby and the last social media post that Libby ever uploaded. So Libby's father arrived at the trailhead at around 3 p.m. I think it's 3 p.m. or 3:15 p.m. I'm so sorry, different sources said different things. I'll just go any time between 3 and 3:15 p.m. The exact same car park that Libby's older sister Kelsey dropped her and Abby off in from the very beginning. So they were getting dropped off and picked up in the exact same location. He was waiting in the car for the girls. He was sort of, looking around, just driving a little bit up through the car park to see where they were. Looking around to see if he could see them, but it didn't appear that either of the girls were waiting for him at the trailhead or in the vicinity of the car park at all. He attempted to call Libby's phone multiple times, all of them which went unanswered, which was very, very unlike his daughter. Libby was an avid phone user, as any teenage girl would be in 2017. So it was very unlike her not to answer a call. But more importantly, Libby was very, very responsible. So she would never, purposely miss a call from any of her family members, let alone not tell any of her family members where she was. And plus, she was the one that organised with her grandfather to come pick her up from that location at that specific time. So it was very, very weird and very out of character for Libby, but let alone both the girls, not to be where they said they were going to be. So he waited a tiny bit longer. I mean, you know, they're only human. They could have just lost track of time, or maybe they got a little lost and they're sort of running back to make the time, but eventually he just thought, no, something is really off here. They haven't come back. There's something up. So he parked up the car and he actually got out himself and had a bit of a look around, because he thought, you know, they must be just lost, like in the trails, in the wooded areas. Maybe they'd accidentally gone off the trail. Maybe one of them had had a fall and gotten hurt. Maybe they're both stuck somewhere. He searched the bridge multiple times, but eventually he just couldn't find anything himself that related to either of the girls. So he decided to call family members and ask, have you heard from Libby recently? If not, can you come help me find her? No one had heard from either of the girls, so some more family members came out and tried to help find both the girls. So at around 5:30 p.m. that same day, the police were called to assist the families in helping search for their daughters, because it was just so unlike them not to return home or not call and tell anyone where they were going. So people were starting to get very worried about them, and it was starting to fall dark as well. Many people started searching around the Moman High Bridge area, like on the bridge itself and around the trails around it and in the wooded areas. But as I just said, it was past 5:30 now when authorities got there and people started to search. So it was dark and it was very, very hard to see anything in those woods. Several hours had gone by and eventually the authorities decided to call off the search until the next morning, which I don't particularly agree with. The girls were quite young and it was, you know, it was most likely that they were in the vicinity. I know that they didn't know that for sure, but I mean, they were dropped off there. They posted a picture on Snapchat of them being there. And then Libby herself had asked her grandfather to come pick her up from there. So they were definitely there in the vicinity. In my opinion, I think they should have had parties out searching all night. I understand it's dark. It may have been cold. I'm not too sure, but I think, you know, if different parties broke it up into different time frames, I definitely think there should have been people out there looking for them all night, because if, you know, anyone knew those girls as well as their families did, they should know that those girls would have definitely come home if they were able to. Anyway, they did stop the search, and I mean, you can't change it now. So they started the search back up again in daylight the following morning. One of these searchers in the party actually ended up finding a single shoe, a sneaker, and it was found not far from the bridge. It was actually found up on the water's edge. Kelsey German, Libby's oldest sister, actually identified that single shoe to be that of Libby's. So now people were starting to worry even more, because, you know, why was her one shoe there near the water's edge? They were seen in the Snapchat picture up on top of the bridge. This was not near the bridge. This was down below at the water's edge. So what has happened? Why is her shoe there? At around noon that same day, however, 2 bodies were actually located just under a kilometre away from Monan Bridge. They were actually located on the north bank of Deer Creek, which later confirmed to be that of Abby Williams and Libby German. Now, police and authorities said that they were both murdered. I've heard on a couple of documentaries and articles that I read that it was a brutal murder. That's how it was described. However, authorities have never released exactly what happened or what they found, at the crime scene. They never told the press or anyone exactly how the girls died. They just said that they were murdered. Even after the autopsy was done, there was no information released on the cause of death of both girls. So we still don't know to this day, but the police girls obviously do. Now, I don't know exactly what I'm allowed to say in this video about the girl's cause of death. Even if I stumble across things on the internet, I'm still quite cautious as to what I'm allowed to say. If the authorities haven't mentioned the cause of death, there's obviously a reason for that. So I don't want to get in trouble by giving my own opinion on how I think the girls died or what they may have found at the crime scene. If I don't know whether I'm allowed to talk about it or not in my videos, I always just advise you to look it up yourselves if you want to. I just won't say it on here. But if you look up the suspects that the police had during this case, you can see what all the suspects' criminal backgrounds are, and unfortunately there is a link between most of the suspects in a particular crime. So that is all I'm gonna say on that. However, we will be talking more about the suspects anyway later in the video, but I just thought I'd put that in there now. There does seem to be a connection of particular types of crimes with these suspects. At the crime scene, authorities actually found Libby's phone just nearby, and there was some evidence on there that appeared to show just moments before the situation or the murder occurred. The video showed Libby and Abby walking across the bridge, and they were talking about some creepy guy that was following them, and one of the girls asked the other girls if this creepy guy is still walking behind them. So they obviously knew something was up. Libby had actually managed to take a quick video of this guy that people assume the girls are talking about to be this creepy guy following them. And police later labeled this man seen in the video as one of the prime suspects of this case. This video slash photo shows what appears to be a Caucasian male wearing blue jeans and a jacket looking downwards, walking directly towards the girls on top of the bridge that day. In addition to this photo slash video Libby had got, she actually managed to also take a voice recording of this guy talking to them. So now they have a photo and a video and a voice recording of the prime suspect, which is truly amazing on Libby's behalf. The suspect appears to say to the girls, "Down the hill." Down the hill. Down the hill. Down the hill. Police said that there was some further evidence on Libby's phone that they found. However, they didn't want to release it to the public just yet because they didn't want to damage a trial that they may have in the future. So months later in July, authorities actually released a deposit sketch. God. Months later in July, authorities released a composite sketch of who they assumed the suspect was. It was made in conjunction with an eyewitness or witnesses. I am sorry, I don't know how many they were, but apparently these eyewitnesses saw this particular guy walking on the trails that same day the girls went missing. After this, there was no new information for a long while, actually, which is just so, it's bizarre that you can have a photo and a video, a composite sketch, a voice recording of the guy that you're looking for and still get absolutely nowhere with this case. And I'm sure authorities were incredibly frustrated knowing that they had all this kind of strongish evidence, but still couldn't seem to get a person arrested for this. I'm sure the families were quite frustrated as well, but the police assured them that they were not going to let this case grow cold. So in April of 2019, so we're flashing forward about 2 years here, the authorities released a new and updated composite sketch of the bridge guy. That's what people were referring to this guy as. This new sketch didn't really look anything like the old sketch, and police told people to basically forget about the old sketch. The guy portrayed in the old sketch is no longer a person of interest, and that they were looking for someone younger looking like in the new sketch. Also in April of 2019, police urged any members of the public that maybe had some more information about a car that was actually left abandoned outside a former building nearby, just off the Hosier Heartland Highway, to come forward, because it may have led to more information about the driver of this abandoned vehicle. More of the voice recording from Libby's phone was actually released to the public as well at this time. You can actually hear the suspect saying what appears to be "guys," and then he proceeds to say "down the hill." The suspect says "guys" in like a higher tone and then says "down the hill" in a much lower tone.
Guys, down the hill.
We don't know if that's a whole sentence put together or if they're two separate voice recordings though. So I don't know, it's so strange, the voice recording. Like, the guy seems to be, I don't know, trying to lead them somewhere or get their attention or maybe direct them a certain way. Like, "guys, down the hill," like trying to coax them to go down the hill maybe. I'm not too sure. What is down the hill? What was down the hill? Had he already gotten a hold of the girls at this point and was directing them down the hill forcefully, or I don't know, it's so bizarre. I can't imagine if the girls were restrained at this point that Libby would be able to, you know, whip out her phone even secretly and record the guy, because he kind of sounds really close to them when you hear the voice recording. So if she was restrained, I can't imagine she would be able to do that without him not noticing. So I think that they were not restrained at that point and he was saying "down the hill" to try and lure them maybe down the hill. The video that Libby took of the bridge guy shows him walking kind of funny, and police were telling the public to really consider how he walks and his mannerisms, and if that is maybe triggering a memory for someone that knows someone that walks that way. But people were quick to realize that he was walking on an old bridge that had, you know, lots of spacing between the wood, and I can imagine anyone walking on a bridge like that would probably also be walking kind of funny. Like, you're not going to be walking naturally when there's big spaces between your steps. You're going to be kind of walking with larger steps or maybe even sideways in different directions. So I don't think he may not have actually had a funny walk. So the cops presume that this killer was basically hiding in plain sight, that he was hiding within the community of Delphi. They think the suspect currently lives in Delphi or may have lived in Delphi in the past. They think that maybe he works in Delphi or visits quite often, since he was seen near the Moment Bridge. So they assume that he probably knows the area if he's walking through those trails. Police later revealed some more information about the crime scene. They did say that the killer left around 2 to 3 signatures at the crime scene, and no one really knows what that is. They didn't release what these signatures are. They could be markings, they could be items, we have no idea. But they left some signatures and that's all we know. So let's dive into some persons of interest that the police had over the past few years. Just note that no arrests have been made and it is now 2021. So these were all just persons of interest, no arrests have been laid. So first off, we'll talk about Daniel J. Nations. People thought he looked very similar to the first police composite sketch that was released. Nations was a registered sex offender from Indiana, and he was a person of interest because in September of 2017, he had been threatening people on a monument trail in Colorado with a hatchet. And he was charged for that. Nations was driving around with an expired license plate on his car, and that's how police ended up finding him. And then they realized that he had a warrant out for his arrest back in Indiana, so they got him straight away. At the same time Nations was scaring people with the hatchet on the Colorado Trail, a cyclist actually was fatally shot at around the same time in the same area. So people speculated that Nations shot him, but I don't think any arrests or charges were laid for that, so I'm not really sure what came about from that cyclist's fatal shooting. In January of 2018, Nations was sentenced to 3 years of probation for threatening members of the public with the hatchet, but then in the same month, he was transferred to Indiana officials' custody for failing to register as a sex offender, I believe. About a month later, in February 2018, authorities said that Nations was no longer believed to be an active suspect in the Delphi double homicide of Libby and Abby. So I'm not sure why, but they did. So next, and these are in no particular order, by the way. I'm just outlining the suspects as I'm researching. Thomas Bruce was said to have also looked like the first composite sketch drawn up, even down to the hat and the jacket. Bruce was charged with fatally shooting a woman and sexually assaulting 2 other women in November 2018. Police did look into a possible connection with the Delphi murders, but it just didn't seem to go anywhere with this investigation. I'm guessing they couldn't find anything on him in relation to this case. Bruce is actually now potentially facing the death penalty for the other crimes that he committed that we just spoke about. So he's actually on standby for that. And I believe his trial got delayed in 2020. So yeah, I don't know what's come from that yet. I think he's still on standby. Paul Etta was another suspect in this case. He was wanted for the kidnapping and rape of a 26-year-old woman in June of 2019. However, in late July 2019, police surrounded him in a sort of standoff that went for hours and hours, and Etta ended up committing suicide. So if he is responsible for the Delphi murders, then we won't ever have a confession because he's dead. No more information about Etta in connection to the Delphi case has ever been released, so I don't know if they're still looking into him or not. Lastly, we have Charles Eldridge. Eldridge is an alleged predator living in Indiana. Similar to some of the other suspects, he was said to look kind of similar to the first composite sketch that was drawn up of the suspect, but I don't believe Eldridge was ever officially named as a suspect. They just wanted to look into him. I'm not sure if this was based just purely on his appearance because he looked like the composite sketch or because of his past crimes. He has charges of child molestation and child solicitation, allegedly. Due to the latest sketch of the suspect being released, which doesn't resemble Eldridge much, no more information seems to have come from this lead. So what I was saying before earlier when we were talking about the causes of death of the 2 girls in the Delphi murders, I'm sure now you can see what each of these suspects has in common in regards to their previous crimes. So that's all for the suspects list for now. I mean, the case is still open and unsolved, so I'm hoping that we get an update or maybe a new suspect that's a bit more accurate, like sometime soon, I guess anytime now. Lots of theories have been suggested by people on the internet wanting to do investigations on this case, and there's actually a lot of forums out there. One forum, or one very popular forum in particular, is from Reddit. Don't you just hate it when that happens? I missed my mascara and I went smack into my hand. Disgusting. I'm not gonna go into the theories that have arisen from that Reddit forum. I mean, because it's Reddit. Everyone knows that Reddit is, oh my god, take a shot every time I say Reddit. I don't know how accurate they are, that's what I'm trying to say. The people that are making up a lot of these theories, I don't think they have much proof that they actually are real. For example, one is a father-son duo. So the first composite sketch is the father, the second composite sketch is the younger son. So that's why the first one is an older looking man, the second one's a younger looking guy or boy. So, kind of things like that. I don't really believe that is the case at all. I think it's just people trying to make up theories to get an answer to close the case. Another suggestion or theory that was made was that it could have been Libby's own father or grandfather, which I think is just absolutely ridiculous. I don't think a family member of either Libby or Abby would do this to them. I think the girls would have recognized them as well, since they were filming this unidentified man on the bridge and got close enough to him to film his voice. So I think they would have recognized their own father, grandfather, uncle's voice. Obviously, authorities would have probably had to look into the family. That's a very normal thing that happens when a crime occurs. You look into the people that are closest with the victims. Obviously, their family is usually number one, so they probably had to look into them, but none of them were ever labelled as a suspect or anything like that, and I think all the family members have actually been cleared anyway. It's a strange case because there seems to be no motivation for this crime. I mean, it's not like the crime happened at Libby's home to the girls. Then yes, maybe it could have been a stalker who had seen them go inside or was stalking them for days prior, weeks prior, even months prior, and knew where they lived. This crime happened in a location where Libby and Abby just decided to go kind of as a spur of the moment thing. So obviously the perpetrator was just in the same place as Libby and Abby was at the Moment Bridge. It must have been a stranger that saw them that very day on the bridge. Maybe this person saw them getting out of Libby's older sister's car and then saw Libby's sister drive away and then knew that the two girls were obviously probably going to go for a hike. They might be alone for the next couple of hours, and then this perpetrator decided to strike. But to take two teenage girls on in broad daylight when they knew that they were being followed, that's pretty bold. Could there have been more than one person involved? I don't know. I mean, it's possible that maybe one of them attacked Libby, one of them attacked Abby. Police never mentioned anything, and I mean, there's only one guy in the video that Libby took, so I'm presuming there's only one perpetrator, but I guess we don't know. Obviously, this case is still open and police are working tirelessly, I assume, on trying to solve it as quickly as possible before it happens to another young person or just a person in general. So if you have any information on who this man is, then please contact the tip line. I have put the email and the number in the description box below. So that brings us to the end of this case. I would really love to discuss with you guys in the comment section below on your thoughts of this case. Obviously, it's very, very interesting and it's still unsolved. So yeah, I would really love to respectfully, of course, discuss with you in the comments. Feel free to comment any suggestions that you have for my future videos on my channel. And with that being said, I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye!